Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on The Flash Season 5, and this is going to be my review for episode 16, otherwise entitled Failure is an Orphan. But of course, spoiler alert, if you've not watched the episode, go watch it, because holy crap, the last 10 minutes of this episode, we'll obviously talk about it during this video, but holy crap. So yeah, if you've not watched it, go do that. But if you did watch the episode, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below throughout this video your various thoughts. All of that, as well as dropping a like on the video if you especially enjoyed the last handful of minutes of this episode. Last episode was obviously the big whole King Shark Gorilla Grodd fight. The main thing to take from that episode was that the metahuman cure works. It works. So that goes into this episode with Cicada and trying to cure him, and Barry's going to give him that option, I guess. And just a quick note, they actually did get a new showrunner for The Flash for next season. Eric Wallace will be taking over from Todd Helbing. I've been asking for this, so they've done it. I'm not saying they are, they got the idea from me. I'm just saying, I've been suggesting it, and it finally happened. A lot of people have been saying it, so we'll get some new stuff next season. But I'll probably mention this in more detail in a video over the weekend. Just thought I'd mention it here because it's news. But we start off the episode in 2049. We love going there, and we actually see the timer has rapidly come down. We're under 19 minutes. I think it was like 18 minutes and 51 seconds or something when we started, but Thorne's basically saying that a new timeline is essentially trying to break through. Like, there's still stuff there from their timeline, but a new timeline is trying to, as I said, break through and take place. It's sort of like glitching, I guess you could say. It's sort of weird, a timeline glitching. Anyway, that's what's happening. So Nora has to sort of act upon that and try and do everything before the timeline, or this new timeline, breaks through. Which then sees Nora trying to push the whole Cicada issue, and being really rash and just sort of just saying, oh no, we have to do this, when really there's no pure evidence to go why they should go this and go out of their way to do this and stuff like that. Even though Nora's from the future, I wouldn't say she's supplying concrete evidence as to why they should go and do that. So you can understand why Team Flash was a bit, hesitant on doing it. And I did find it funny. I think Iris says Savitar, they're mentioning plans working. But then Iris says, oh, it didn't work with Savitar, and Cisco basically does one of these memes, like that. If that doesn't become a GIF on Twitter and stuff, I'll be very disappointed. So Flash community, get on it. One thing that made me roll my eyes a bit was the excess espresso and jitters. I mean, sorry, are you telling me that that's going to exist in the timeline and it doesn't affect it? Rolled my eyes at that anyway. But we do get a cameo from a meta from the comics known as Acid Master. That is an actual character from the comics, an old classic one where their power is literally just chemistry, which they do give a hint at here. Basically, he drinks corrosive acid and he can shoot it. I wonder how he found out he had those powers. Was he drinking acid when the particle accelerator went off? I don't know. But he's evidence that he leaves behind. I guess the acid pools link to the final evidential fight between Flash and Cicada in the future. So this points to the whole Flash Cicada fight, which makes Nora go, oh my god, this is the final showdown. Now you have to change it and make it that you actually stop Cicada rather than not doing anything and then you disappearing and him being evil in the future. So they have to act upon it right now, and there's the actual evidence that they can use. Now we did have a side story this episode that sort of links up with the main story, which was Cecile and Joe investigating the doctor that's been helping Orlin or helping Cicada. Joe's sort of turned off by Cecile's powers because Joe's oh, I can usually read when someone's lying, but Cecile literally has the powers where she can be oh, you're lying, I can read your mind. So Joe's a bit turned off by that when he wants to be the one in charge, but he just embraces that eventually. But we'll talk about that later, later on in the video. Now, one of the nice moments in this episode, and I saw people complaining it on Twitter and even in my Discord chat, was Nora's speech to Barry, or Nora's talk to Barry about his inspiring things that he says to villains or people to try and turn them. I thought that was a nice moment. I thought it was a sweet moment just between the two, and it just reminds us Barry's a bit of a different villain. I guess Barry's similar to maybe a Superman or Supergirl, where they try to get the best out of someone before having to act upon it. But Barry obviously tries to go that extra mile to sort of change someone before having to take action. So I did like having a walk down memory lane with that. So I thought it was a nice scene for Barry and Nora to have throughout this episode. But speaking of the Flash vs Cicada fight that we've been ramping up to, the first one, bit of a fail, just because it just obviously that speech technique wasn't going to work with Cicada the first time around. Lucky that Killer Frost was there, otherwise Barry would have been a bit of a shish kebab on the end of that dagger. So yeah, lucky she was there. But yeah, that first fight scene, it was okay. Nothing to like write home about. But that Joe and Cecile thing carries on into the interrogation, might I say, at Central City Police Department, where we find that the doctor's fiance, whose name was Darius, I think his name was actually killed during the rampage of Zoom back in season 2. So she's got that connection to the whole metahuman thing and why she's against them and stuff like that. Now during this, Joe finds out that Grace is a meta and then carries that on to Barry. So that's a big reveal for them. Obviously, we've known that for a decent amount of time. Like, it's been pretty obvious that she's a meta, but they just found out now. And then they've basically tried to make this... they learn of like the Cicada meetup point, which is going to lead into the big stuff in this episode. Now, one thing that I wasn't like... I thought they just handled a bit weirdly was the lists things. You know how like Iris had a list that she wanted to do, and then Nora said she had a list that she wanted to do. And I was like, wouldn't this be a list you'd do with Barry? Because you two are going to be together in the future. I thought, like, Iris's words, like, oh, I'm not going to see you for a while. I can understand that, but, like, you're still going to be alive in the future. And then, like, Nora should be born just the next couple of years. Not like you're going to go 20 years without having a Nora in your life. Like, if we follow this timeline where she's born, she should be born the next 3 years or something like that. So you'll have her soon. So I thought, shouldn't Barry be the one that's sort of, like, obsessed with doing these lists? Or Nora should be obsessed with doing them with, you know, Barry and Iris, but specifically Barry because he could be gone. That's what I was thinking, but anyway. And even then, like, they've given, like, why would Nora have to go home, like, straight away after defeating Cicada? Like, really, if she's stayed longer than just, like, a day or two in this timeline, I think she basically can stay as long as she wants now, or at least another week to do as much on that list, like, once they've defeated Cicada. So I thought the list thing was just a bit dramatic for the sake of being dramatic when they could just do all that stuff after they defeat Cicada. Anyway. But that Flash vs. Cicada 2.0 fight, I guess you could call it a fight because Cicada bangs Barry and... Bang, that's a weird word. Pushes Barry up against a wall. Cicada does agree and they go to do the cure and stuff like that. And, well, he does get cured, but sort of, you know, doesn't get healthy? Is that the word? He gets cured. He's not a metahuman anymore, but he's not fully healed. That's the best way to say it because he still has that massive gash across his chest. But this is when we see, I'm just going to say it off the get-go because we all knew this would probably happen, but we see Cicada Grace show up. So it's an older version of Grace that we saw in episode 12, I think it was. The one when we go in Grace's mind and also Nora's mind. So she shows up and I pointed out this in the trailer. There's like a scene where Cicada breaks through the window, but that scene hadn't happened yet in the episode when Cicada or Orlin is like getting cured of the powers. I'm like, okay, well, did they delete that bit? And then I saw Sherlock and Nora sit down. I'm like, oh, here we go. So this is going to be a different Cicada coming in, and most likely Cicada Grace, and that's exactly who shows up. And I must say, she's pretty badass. She has like does she have like the powers of the daggers without the dagger? Like she does like hand blasts, which seem to like nullify people's powers and just like hold them up against stuff. It seems like that's what it is. I'm sure they'll explain that in more detail in episodes to come, but that's what it seems like at least. I don't know, it wasn't fully explained, but instead of just one dagger, she has like, it's like a dual, like a boomerang daggers or something like that, which were pretty sick. And that whole scene in Star Labs, I think that's my favorite scene of the season. That was sick. Like all those powers going through, much better than that other episode. Was episode 14 or 13, whatever, the one where like Nora did the time loop thing and that end scene with all the powers, that looked crap. This was cool. It's like, you know, ninja like stuff, like almost like a scene from Arrow, like blocking all these projectiles at her. I thought that was pretty sick. And then she just completely trashes Star Labs. If you want an entry scene, even though it's still Cicada, it's like a new character, Cicada Grace, that's one way to make your entrance. And I thought that was a pretty badass scene. Once again, saw people complaining about it on Twitter. I don't know why. I thought it was pretty damn cool. But this then leads to her having a pretty dark scene with the Doctor where she just straight up kills her in a pretty dark scene. Not like, oh my god, it's the darkest scene ever, but for the Flash, it's fairly dark. You know, and a scene that in a season which I don't think has been like overly dark. It's not like season 3 level where it just feels like you're not watching Flash. Still felt like Flash, but just a dark scene to take you a bit out of your comfort zone, I guess you could say. But Cicada Grace, she seems pretty lethal, and we do get that full-on reveal at the end. If you hadn't realised at that point yet that was an older Grace as Cicada, they basically put it right in front of your face and say, here it is if you haven't figured it out yet. And she takes off her hood and she has the big scar on her head and says Uncle Orlan. She actually has to say Uncle Orlan just in case there were even more people that hadn't figured it out yet at that point. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. I had a feeling Cicada would still continue. I didn't feel this was going to be the end of it, of that character, because episode 17 is actually going to jump into Grace's origin and like how her parents died. So I thought, why would you kill off Cicada in episode 16 but then focus on Grace the episode after? Like, that didn't make too much sense to me. But overall, I thought this was a pretty solid episode. The last half was much better than the first. I thought the first was a bit... I was watching and I was like, oh my god, like, this is going to be very lackluster, isn't it? It was just one of those episodes where half of it is just a bit... and then at the end is like, okay, it starts to get better, and then the end is like, bam, cop that in the head, how's your face? That's basically how the last, I'd say quarter of this episode is, but I'll chuck the half in there. I'll be a bit more generous with this episode, and I'll say the final half as well. Obviously, we're not too sure if Reverse Flash or Eobard Thawne at the beginning of the episode was talking specifically about this future Grace, that's this big threat, or if he's talking about Godspeed, because we know Godspeed's in episode 18, so there's a couple of things that go up against each other. But this future Grace is in the past now, and I'm guessing she looks way more overpowered than her uncle, and she even has the dagger now, so I'm excited to see how lethal she can be. And personally, I've actually enjoyed the Cicada stuff this season. It's been more like little things that the writers do that just... Actually, it's actually the big things. The little things are good. The big things where they make him get in situations where he should be taken down all the time are frustrating, and he gets away. It's a bit of a meme. But the rest of the stuff I've actually been a pretty big fan of, and I've actually enjoyed the character for the most part, and I'm very excited to see what they do with the Grace stuff going forward. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode, or the video as well. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like and show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on this episode. Did you love it? Did you like it? Did you hate it? Did you just dislike it a bit? Or did you just find it a bit of an average episode? Let me know in the comments section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. I'll catch you later, guys. Goodbye.